guess. Hi, I'm Cynthia, Brinich Langlois. I teach digital art, culture, theory, and practice in the first year program. I also teach professional practices for senior art majors with Melissa. And I teach lithography and sometimes intro to print and narrative forms. And I do tech work for the print and narrative forms area. Through a field-based practice, I employ drawings, prints, and written reflections to create site-responsive investigations of place. Let's start with the motif of a circle. The circle exists as a representation of the whole, a symbol of earth and sun, of clock faces and compass roses. Even the boundaries of a lake or pond or the topographical line of a particular elevation can be understood to be circular in a sense, a shape enclosed without beginning or end. The rising and setting sun offers a general guide to direction and creates the rhythm of day and night, with time measured in increments that correspond to its motion. Like historical books of hours with prayers that evoke time of day, I complete each composition over a 24-hour period. The motif of a circle guides selection of sites, becoming both a clock face and a compass rose, whose circumference I traverse, drawing the landscape for 3 hours at each of 8 points that correspond to the cardinal and ordinal directions. The changing conditions of illumination influence the level of detail rendered, and as darkness obscures the landscape from view, the compositions are drawn more from memory and imagination than direct observation. This project captures the influence of time of day on perception, technique, and concentration, and situates each print not only in a place, but also in a time. And these were completed in Wyoming during a residency at UCross Foundation. The circle is not always perfect, and these misshapen concentric forms arise as tiny oases among the rocks. At Muley Point above Monument Valley in Utah, I documented the current and high water lines of 20 pools or tinahas. These are entirely dependent on rainfall and become isolated worlds for the organisms that occupy them. The organisms cannot move from one to the next, and when rain ceases to fall, they die. The certainty of each pool's evaporation is evident throughout the day as the borders shrink and water turns to mud. The basin and range landscape of Nevada offers a different yet similarly isolated environment. I examined the idea of islands from an ecological perspective, drawing the hills that rise up high enough to support cooler climate species of piñons mixed in with junipers, as well as some that are utterly barren. During early morning hikes, I collected artifacts, rocks, bones, sun-bleached twigs, and these objects create a counterpoint below the floating hill islands, not exactly grounding them, but offering evidence of my investigation of the site. The salty lowlands are nearly as inhospitable to cross as the sea, and higher elevation formations have their own distinct communities with trees growing from bird-scattered seeds. I remain fascinated by the reach of anthropogenic forces, even, perhaps especially, in remote parts of the country. As the weather continues to warm, the piñon stands creep ever higher, but at some point they reach the top of the hill. I was born in Alaska, where I returned to revisit familiar places and discover new sites for creative exploration, most recently on a kayak trip through the Beardsley Islands. This work examines the interactions among biological, geological, and anthropological factors that continue to sculpt Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve in southeastern Alaska. The shorelines and waterways of Glacier Bay are altered through the twice daily changing of the tides, but on a more geological scale, the rising of both the land and sea reforms the landscape itself as tidewater glaciers retreat up the mountains. As the weight of the ice no longer compresses the land, the rocky shore moves incrementally upward, bringing with it things often hidden below the water. These rocks, algae, and other intertidal creatures are revealed at the margin of the sea when low tides are the lowest. While the transformation of Glacier Bay is easily observed, it is not unique, and the changes affected upon it are echoed in diverse climate conditions throughout the world. The last print, which will pop up in a bit, is called Color, and I'll end by reading it to you. Why is the sea gray, formless, full of otters rising, staring, sinking? Do they find drizzly air familiar? When does rain become the ocean? Are the splashes salty or sweet? When high clouds shroud the bright sun, why does everything turn pale? Why do lavender periwinkle ripples run toward breaching whales? On a sunny day, why is the water suddenly metallic, with silver crests and pewter troughs echoing the wind? How is the water both murky and clear? writhing dragon kelp as the glowing sun sinks. Why is glacier water opaque, like a green-gray milkshake flowing? How far does the silt drift in a gradient of turquoise? When will the icebergs disappear? What color then? Thank you.